The story begins with Makoto, a young boy who is born into a family of assassins, now starts to feel imprisoned in his own home. His parents always tell him that family is the most valuable thing in the world, but Makoto wonders whether or not families are actually that important. With his family's 300-year-long history as assassin, Makoto, together with his siblings, undergoes difficult training every day since they were kids. This custom completely changed his perception on what a family truly is, and whether it is indeed important or not. Then, one day, orcs suddenly arrived from another world and started creating havoc in Tokyo. These strange creatures and their barbaric actions became a source of terror for humans. As the sounds of screams and cries of desperation echo throughout Tokyo, Makoto grabs this opportunity to leave his family behind. Using his father's RV, Makoto escaped from Tokyo faster than anyone else and drove out to the sea, where the number of monsters gradually decreased. So, whether it's a massive earthquake or alien invasion, this is the disaster Makoto has been waiting for to happen to be able to leave his assassin family. But Makoto can't help but wonder if this is somewhat an ice-sky apocalypse where creatures from another world have come to take over the country. The next day, the ocean breeze wakes him up. As he steps out of his RV, trying to breathe some fresh air, he is shocked to see a beautiful girl standing by the shore holding a massive sword. Her cute face and amazing skin really mesmerized Makoto. So, regardless of her looking like an elf, Makoto still finds her really cute that he even ended up feeling like he had fallen in love at first sight. The girl then started talking in a monster language, amazed that she really got transported into another world. Trying to act cool about it, Makoto went on to invite her to have breakfast with him. He also warned her regarding the sword since she might get in trouble with the authorities. But little did Makoto know, the pig-looking orc that appeared out of nowhere the other day was now standing behind him. Fortunately, the girl managed to step in and help him. She tried telling him to run away and find a safe place to hide, but because they can't understand each other's language, the two had a hard time communicating with each other. Without any choice, the elf girl ended up fighting off monsters one after the other on her own. But her luck started running off when she fought against the fattest orc in the group. As the orc tried to molest her, Makoto stepped in and used his RV to knock the monster out. On the other hand, while Makoto is literally experiencing a life or death situation on some random shore in Japan, his family back in Tokyo managed to eliminate a number of monsters themselves. Despite Makoto not answering their calls, his father is certain that his son wouldn't get slaughtered that easily, as he is far stronger than these monsters. Coming from a family of assassins, even with just a small dagger on hand, Makoto seamlessly managed to cut the orc's legs without a sweat. Makoto didn't even show mercy on the orc and just went on to slice him up real good. To Makoto's surprise, this orc's body structure is similar to that of humans, but Makoto didn't hesitate and eventually ended everything with one stab. But after doing so, Makoto couldn't help but get a bit dumbstruck after realizing what he had just done. However, to his surprise, the monster is technically not dead yet. The elf girl didn't even hesitate to step in and end it once and for all. To Makoto's surprise, the orc's leg that he had just cut off had already healed back. At this point, he eventually realized that these monsters won't die unless one stabs their heart or cuts their head off. Quite curious about where the girl learned how to use a sword, Makoto tried asking her, but the girl only looked at her with that confused look. Then Makoto remembers that they can't really understand each other at all, making him wonder if there is a way they would be able to communicate with one another. At that moment, Makoto suddenly remembered that he has never talked to a girl who is not a part of his family ever in his life before. Although he is so nervous to talk right now, Makoto gathered all his courage and told the girl that he really likes her. Despite it being so sudden, Makoto went on to reveal that he fell in love with her at first sight, even going as far as popping the question and asking her to marry him. Stunned by Makoto's proposal, the girl's sword started to glow, indicating that the seal of the holy sword signal has now been broken. Without warning, the sword shoots a ray of light directly at Makoto, causing him to scream in discomfort. Moments later, Makoto felt a little dizzy, while the girl is still quite shocked that her signal actually formed a contract with a human being from another world. Meanwhile, to Makoto's surprise, the barrier between their languages has also been broken when subtitles displayed on a floating window suddenly appeared out of nowhere. With Makoto forming a contract with the Holy Sword, he is now given the ability to communicate with this girl through subtitles. Confused about what was going on, Makoto ended up feeling awkward when the girl suddenly opened up regarding the marrying thing. Flustered, Makoto quickly tried to explain himself, saying that he only said that because he thought the elf girl wouldn't understand. Surprisingly, a connection between them formed and Makoto called it fate. After Makoto confessed his feelings, the elf girl revealed that he had been chosen by the Holy Sword of Signal as the hero and asked him to save her world from evil. The elf girl believed in Makoto's strength after seeing him defeat a pig-headed beast with just a dagger. But Makoto doubted himself, thinking his power came from the trauma of being raised by an assassin family and not because he is a hero. For the longest time, Makoto sees himself as the opposite of a hero, but the elf girl disagrees, stating that being a hero is about facing fear to survive, just like what Makoto did earlier. Touched by her words, Makoto impulsively asked her to marry him, but after a while, he immediately apologized for his rash decision. However, to his surprise, the elf girl accepted his proposal so happily and was even excited to marry the so-called hero. Because of this, Makoto couldn't even look her in the eyes due to embarrassment. Realizing they hadn't introduced themselves yet, the elf girl whose name is Ingrid finally got to know Makoto's name. Surprised by how quickly things escalated, Makoto wondered if it was all just a dream, since he never imagined being in a relationship with such a cute girl. As they grew more comfortable with each other, they finally began their journey as a couple. However, for some reason, everything that's happening triggered painful memories from Makoto's past. As a child, he was forced by his assassin family to slaughter animals to get used to murdering. He still remembers his first task when he was a kid was to slaughter a pig, but he couldn't bring himself to do it while his siblings were unfazed about it. This early experience left Makoto feeling weak and inferior. Though Ingrid saw a hero in him, Makoto still carried the scars of a dark, violent childhood. Eventually, he went to school after 4th grade. Afterward, he helped out the family business and received more training. However, he didn't have any friends, much less a lover, and the only people he would have interacted with were his family. On top of that, the only books he could get his hands on were owned by old men, and even the TV and internet were both banned until he reached 18. To make it worse, his siblings didn't have a single problem with that, and they somehow felt as if it was only natural. But Makoto was just different. He was longing for something more. For the longest time, Makoto tried to find answers, but he gradually realized how twisted his childhood truly was. He came to believe he had one of the worst childhoods among people his age. So, when he met someone as kind and cute as Ingrid and even got the chance to marry her, everything felt like a blessing. As Ingrid moves closer to him, Makoto thought he was about to experience his first kiss, but instead, she whispered something in his ear, stating that since he had formed a contract with the Holy Sword Cygnus, she would now offer him her blessing. From that moment on, the sword was officially Makoto, which he will use to defeat Erold, the evil creature that created this chaos. Though haunted by his past and the trauma of harming others, Makoto accepted the mission, thinking that he would do all of this for Ingrid. But after a little while, he realized how shallow that sounded, so he quickly corrected himself, stating that he'd do it for the sake of the world. Ingrid was speechless for a moment, so Makoto started feeling worried he had said something wrong. But when she noticed his chest tightening, she asked what was wrong. At that moment, Makoto finally admitted he wanted to run from his past to change. Yet even now, being normal felt out of reach, and even though he hated himself, Makoto truly wanted to change for the better. To comfort him, Ingrid reminded him of his strength and bravery, which was the reason she is still alive now. Ingrid even added that she doesn't see him as a monster, but someone worth praising. The two had a slight moment of silence until Ingrid decided to finally move forward. She plans on heading southeast since her people were captured and imprisoned by the enemy in the capital of Azeroth. Confused as Makoto had never heard of a place called Azeroth, Ingrid then went on to show him a map using the Holy Sword. To his surprise, Ingrid went on to show him a map that looked exactly like the map of Japan. As he takes a closer look, Makoto suddenly realizes that the glowing dot in the map is the Azeroth Ingrid is talking about, and this point exactly points to Tokyo. This time around, it is now Ingrid who is confused about what Makoto is talking about, so Makoto explains that this is the city he grew up in. It has lots of tall buildings and Japan is its capital city. He then added that he was living there up until the day before yesterday, until suddenly a number of monsters appeared out of nowhere. Although this is a lot to take in, Makoto finally realizes that the world where Ingrid came from and their world have the same topography. Ingrid then went on to explain that the Netherworld and the world Makoto lives in are like heads and tails where many things are mutually influenced by each other's world, and the topography is one of the biggest points in common. Thus, Tokyo itself is the other side of the same coin, and as mentioned, the crisis that occurred in Azel, which is Ingrid's world, has also brought strange phenomena upon Tokyo. This crisis started when the warlock, Erold, used evil magic. It's a forbidden magic intended to connect the afterlife and the world of the living. Slowly realizing that this was a serious issue, Makoto went on to check the maps once again, where he noticed that aside from Tokyo, other points were marked on the map. Ingrid then explains that these are the locations of the shrines where the sacred treasures are located, namely, the 6 sacred treasures bestowed by the god. These are the Holy Sword, the Holy Spear, the Holy Axe, the Holy Shield, the Holy Staff, and the Holy Bow. According to Ingrid, these sacred treasures protected the peace and order between the two worlds. However, Erold and his underlings sealed the shrine's sacred treasures one after another. In their stead, he offered to the shrines the demon weapons bestowed upon him by the evil god, which are the demon sword, the demon spear, the demon axe, the demon shield, the demon staff, and the demon bow. As a result, the world's balance has now crumbled, and it even went as far as affecting the world Makoto is living in. That is why, to restore the balance, Makoto needs to defeat Erold, the one who carries the demon sword. This demon sword's power is so tremendous that it's probably the place with the largest scale of strange phenomena. But now that Ingrid has mentioned it, Makoto wonders what happens to the other places aside from Tokyo. Based on Ingrid's observation, no matter what part of Japan you are in, there's a big chance that a strange phenomenon will take place. In fact, she even transported herself to the world Makoto is living in using the power of the Holy Sword. But despite that, the orcs and Arnold's minions were able to follow her due to the influence of the demon weapon located at the shrine nearby, where the two of them are at right now. Ingrid then pointed out where this place is, and after looking at the map, Makoto realized that it's located in Nakazawa City. The shrine located in that area is where the demon axe is. Since they are relatively closer to Nakazawa, Ingrid suggested that they should deal with the demon axe first instead of going straight to Tokyo. After all, it is easier to deal with the other shrines, rather than going directly to Erold. So eventually, the two decided to head towards these shrines first and seal the other demon weapons in hopes that it would weaken Erold's power. A window then suddenly appeared, showing where the demon weapons were located. The demon sword is in Tokyo, the axe is in Nakazawa, the spear is in Kyoto, the shield is in Osaka, the staff is in Nagoya, and lastly, the bow is in Odawara. With this information from their current location, Nakazawa would be their first stop. From where they are now, Makoto plans on traveling westwards along Honshu and visiting the shrine and sealing them right away, with Tokyo being their last stop. As they finally start traveling, Ingrid is quite amazed by the RV as she has never really experienced riding one in her world. When Makoto went on to open the car windows, Ingrid immediately had a blast. As the wind touches her skin, making her silky hair fly away, Makoto can't help but look at her mesmerizingly. As he starts to blush at how cute Ingrid is, Makoto is extremely happy as everything that is happening now feels like a dream to him. After all, suddenly getting a cute girlfriend and going for a drive together, traveling across the country, is really something that makes his heart feel full. But what really makes Makoto excited is that one night he would enjoy Ingrid to himself in bed. He then immediately brushes off these dirty thoughts from his mind, reminding himself that his first girlfriend is literally in trouble and is in need of his help. That is why, as soon as Ingrid tried to talk to him, Makoto couldn't even bring himself to look at her straight and even started feeling a bit embarrassed about himself, despite Ingrid not really hearing his thoughts. As he starts to feel awkward, Makoto decides to go drive to the store to buy them some food. As they are on the way, Makoto starts to wonder if the stores are still standing, or rather, what exactly is happening in Japan right now. Makoto then started overthinking, having thoughts like what if the strange phenomena have now spread across all of Japan and are causing the country to be in a state of danger. So to ensure that their plans go smoothly, Makoto decided to gather some information first by watching the news. As they watched the news, the two managed to see the current footage of the National Diet building. On top of the building, a creature that could be called a dragon has taken position. Ingrid immediately knew that this was the king's wyvern. Along with him are statues that are 10 meters tall, standing right in front of the entrance of the building. These statues are called Era and Lyra. Both of them are the guardian beasts of Ingrid's royal family. However, they are now under the command of Erold. As Ingrid mentions the royal family, Makoto starts to wonder if she is a princess in their world. Although Era and Lyra look like statues, when the drones of the news channel get closer to them, the two statues suddenly come to life. They then kneel down, with 8 other people appearing. Confused at what is going on, Ingrid immediately informs Makoto that these are Erold's cult, a group of sorcerers under the command of Erold who worship dark deities. Now that these powerful people have suddenly appeared, the news footage suddenly ended as it seems that all the drones have been destroyed. The cult uses some sort of magic to destroy every drone in sight. With this, Makoto ended up deciding to scan the internet to get more information about the situation. Surprisingly, there were many survivors, and obtaining information through social media was relatively easy. From there, they were able to learn the following. The members of the National Diet have become hostages of the Erold cult. With hostages involved, neither the police nor the self-defense forces can intervene. On top of that, the governor of Tokyo and officials in the Tokyo metropolitan government are now operating under the rule of the Arnold cult. The two also found out that Tokyo has been placed under lockdown, and the governance of the country has been entrusted to the National Governors Association. Based on how it looks, Erold is prioritizing the conquest of the capital city, since it appears that there are no significant strange creatures or disturbances outside of Tokyo. That is why Makoto and Ingrid hoped that they wouldn't encounter any issues as they continued their journey through the regions as planned. However, Makoto starts to wonder if there's a possibility that strange creatures, like the one they encountered earlier, might come after them again. Ingrid then went on to assure him that she doesn't see any possibilities that the enemies from the spirit world would be able to pinpoint her exact location, especially since she was transported through the mortal realm. Aside from that, to be able to translocate enemies to the mortal realm, the enemies would need to use the power of magical artifacts, so it is unlikely that the enemies would waste so much power on such frivolous actions. However, Ingrid is still not certain about what might happen if the power of the magical artifacts were to increase in the future. But as of the moment, Makoto wants her to stop thinking pessimistically, since for now, he just wants them to eat something delicious. After traveling for a few hours or so, they finally made it to their first stop. Before stepping out of the car, Makoto made it a goal to try cheering up Ingrid, even just a little, knowing that she surely is in a situation much more difficult than he can imagine. Since they have now arrived in Kanazawa City, Makoto would not let it pass, not being able to try some of the city's best sushi. So, before they start their plan to visit the shrines, Makoto wants them to have a decent meal first. But before that, Makoto asks Ingrid that she should do something first with that holy sword of hers, since if she carries it around, it will definitely attract police attention. Ingrid then immediately went on to cancel her sword and transform it into a necklace, which is more convenient to carry around. After that, Makoto also asks her to change her clothes, as there is a big chance that her ears may stand out to people. Using her power, Ingrid effortlessly transforms herself into a human form, while informing Makoto that she can actually change her appearance into 7 different races. Now that they finally blend in with others, the two immediately went to the marketplace to look for food. Surprisingly, the market is packed with people despite all the chaos that is happening on the other side of Japan. As they started off their food trip journey, Makoto went on to take Ingrid to a popular restaurant he knew of. While the two are waiting in line, just enjoying each other's company, someone who just looks and dresses like Ingrid when she first arrived in this world is also waiting in line with them. This man is scanning through the menu, excited to devour some delicious sushi. As they finally got inside the rotating sushi restaurant, Makoto went on to explain how the restaurant works to Ingrid. To ensure that Ingrid experienced the best sushi dining ever, Makoto went on to order some of the best-selling sushi in the restaurant. As Ingrid went on to take a bite, she was immediately blown away by how delicious the dish was, to the point that she started crying. Worried that he had done something wrong, Makoto went on immediately to ask her why she started crying. Ingrid then explains that she was just moved by her first meal in this world, that aside from her stomach, her heart became full. As Ingrid went on to try more sushi, the chef couldn't help but notice that she was speaking another language. To avoid getting everyone's attention, Makoto just went on to lie, stating that Ingrid is a foreign student from their university. As soon as Makoto stated that Ingrid is from a country located in a remote part of Europe, the chef couldn't help but mention that there is another customer who speaks a similar language to Ingrid. This shocked Makoto as he never expected that they would be able to meet another person from Ingrid's world. As Makoto went on to listen to what the man was saying, he immediately confirmed that this man was indeed a person from another world. Since the land in the underworld is already under the control of the enemy, Ingrid personally thinks that there is a high possibility that this man is one of Erold's minions. So as much as they could, Makoto and Ingrid tried their best to keep a low profile. Since the guy hadn't really noticed them yet, the two decided to finally step out of the restaurant for now. While Makoto pays for the bill, Ingrid steps out of the restaurant first. There, while walking down the street, she witnessed an incident where a dead fish suddenly came back to life and transformed into a monstrous being. As everyone starts to panic, Ingrid goes on to save a mother and a son who were about to get attacked by the monster. As the monster aims to attack her this time, Makoto steps in to save her life while also asking her if she knows what type of creature this is. However, even Ingrid doesn't have any idea where this creature came from, making Makoto worried as this may only imply that the gate that connects this world and the other world is now starting to open. On top of that, considering this creature is relatively strong, Ingrid begs Makoto to draw the holy sword out before people are harmed. However, Makoto doesn't want to attract attention from people since he knows very well that if he swings a weapon like that in front of these many people, he'll get arrested by the police. To make it worse, the man in the restaurant might also find out Ingrid's identity. But Makoto assures her that everything will turn out alright, since he'll try his best to figure something out. So with the best he could, Makoto went on to analyze the creature's body, trying to think of any weaknesses that would enable him to win. Just like what happened to the orcs earlier this morning, Makoto plans on proving his theory that these creatures are not as invincible as people might think. Everything that he has learned and acquired up until now, Makoto wants to put into action. As he started to fight the monster, the people spectated around him. Makoto then hides at the creature's blind spot, which is below its body, and he is now aiming for the creature's weak spot to finally end this fight once and for all. Knowing that he only got one chance, Makoto is ready to give it all he's got and strike the monster hard until it dies. Eventually, Makoto did manage to knock the monster down. He then didn't waste a minute and went on to tell everyone to immediately evacuate. Moments later, he also tells Ingrid that they both should escape as well, while they still can. However, Ingrid is worried about the people, thinking that this monster might still wake up and hurt everyone in sight, so assures her that the police will take care of the rest, so there is no need for them to worry. When Ingrid is finally convinced to leave, before they can even do so, the man that they are trying to avoid suddenly rushes towards them. The man was quite amazed by Makoto's skills a while ago, which is why he badly wanted to talk to him now, which is something that Makoto and Ingrid are not delighted about. Now that they have caught the man's attention, Makoto tells Ingrid to ignore the man and just run away. The man tried calling for Makoto's attention, but the two decided not to respond to him at all. At this point, the man started to speculate that maybe he can't really communicate with people in this world. As he tries to chase after the two, the fish monster starts moving again, about to attack him. Fortunately, the man effortlessly defeats it with one move and also uses his magic power to ignite the monster in fire, shocking everyone, even Ingrid and Makoto. Now that the man has finally caught Makoto's attention, he kept on telling him that he wanted to talk. After witnessing Makoto fight a while ago, the man speculated that Makoto might be a formidable warrior who had defeated numerous enemies. At this point, Makoto is starting to get intrigued about knowing more about this man. However, Ingrid immediately reminds him that they need to leave quickly. Meanwhile, seeing the two rushing to leave made the man wonder what the reason was behind them running away in the first place. On their way out, Makoto can't help but express how amazing the man's magic is. According to Ingrid, the technique that the man used a while ago can only be done by advanced magic users. Hence, Ingrid thinks that he is a dangerous opponent to fight with. Based on how powerful he is, Ingrid immediately thought that the man might be a mage from our Erold's cult. So if that's the case, Makoto ended up concluding that the bad guys might be chasing after Ingrid all along. Since this was not good for their plan, the two tried to formulate a new plan. But while they are still inside the market, Makoto feels a presence following them. Although they can't really see him, Makoto can sense him through his footsteps. Since the man was wearing heavy boots, Makoto could distinguish them by their distinctive sound. Even though the man lost sight of them, he is still tracking them accurately as if he were a police dog. At this point, Ingrid starts to wonder if this man has noticed her identity. However, Makoto thinks that this man is only after him because of the way he fought against the strange fish a while ago. So when the man finally saw them, the two tried to ignore him. But the man knows that Makoto understands him. But as much as Makoto could, he tried acting up as if the man were a foreigner. At this point, the man starts to wonder what is going on, since he is pretty sure that when his eyes and Ingrid's eyes met, he was convinced that they understood each other. At this point, there is no doubt that this person is chasing Makoto for a reason. Based on the looks of it, he is still unaware of Ingrid's background. That is why Makoto plans to deliberately divert the attention of the pursuers. This is a skill that he learned from his clan. Every time he makes use of the skills of his clan, Makoto feels a sense of discomfort in his chest. However, although it has its effect, but before they can even leave, the man goes on to show off his window. He then tells Makoto that with this, they will be able to talk to each other. With this already in place, Makoto has no choice but to talk to him. Without hesitation, the man went on to immediately reveal that he came from another world. To put it simply, he terms himself as an ice guy person. During this time, Makoto finally realizes that this man is indeed a human from the spirit world. However, Makoto wonders how this man managed to open the gate without using the holy sword. He then notices the necklace that glowed earlier. As Makoto's mind is now filled with questions, the man went on to tell him that he finds Makoto's skills magnificent during his fight with that fish monster. So good that the man started thinking Makoto is a renowned warrior in this world. Without hesitation, the man immediately asks Makoto if he is willing to fight alongside him. Although Makoto is confused at the moment, for some reason, he doesn't sense any hostility from this man. But despite that, there is no guarantee that this person is not Ingrid's enemy. Then all of a sudden, Ingrid approaches the man, asking him where he got the necklace, which turns out to be the holy axe, Karlam. Ingrid then went on to show off her crest, and seeing this crest shocked the man. Ingrid then finally introduced herself as the third princess of the Mastonia kingdom. After hearing this, the man immediately bowed down and showed respect to Ingrid, introducing himself as Beowulf, the man that the liege sent to assist her. Finding out who he is, Ingrid couldn't even hide her shockness, as Beowulf is actually the hero of Yggerland, a city in the world Ingrid came from. As Beowulf went on to kiss Ingrid's palms, Makoto didn't even know how to act due to the awkwardness. Since the two are starting to draw some attention, Makoto tells them that it might be better if they change location now. As they finally made it back to the RV, Ingrid couldn't help but feel happy and reassured now that they had the assistance of a renowned hero like Beowulf. Seeing Ingrid happy because of another man somehow made Makoto feel jealous. As he started acting up, Beowulf and Ingrid started worrying about him. Now that Beowulf finally notices Makoto once again, he immediately asks him who he is. Makoto immediately stated his name and how he met Ingrid this morning. Ingrid then steps in, telling Beowulf more about Makoto, stating that he is the chosen one of the Holy Sword Signail, the hero of this world. On top of that, Ingrid also added that Makoto is her fiancé, a statement that made Makoto blush so much. While the two smiled at each other, Beowulf looked rather unhappy, hearing that from Ingrid. Hearing her say that Makoto is her fiancé shocked Beowulf. Beowulf just finds it odd since Makoto is from the mortal realm, and even if he is an exceptional warrior or the chosen one by the Holy Sword, Beowulf still thinks that it will cause much trouble for the princess, considering she is now engaged to someone from another world. Now that Beowulf has mentioned it, the princess then went on to state that she already knows that. But despite the concerns that may arise, the princess doesn't really care about it, since everything that has happened between her and Makoto is all because of fate. On top of that, Ingrid also knows that it is possible since her grandmother Junko Sayama also came to their world from the mortal realm. So, just like Makoto, the princess's grandmother was a human from the mortal realm. Now that they're already talking about it, Ingrid suddenly remembers the time when their homeland, Mastonia, was plagued by the miasma. During that time, it was an era when monsters overflowed, and the one that saved everyone from that disaster was her grandmother, who was summoned from the mortal realm. However, when she was summoned, Ingrid's grandmother mostly forgot the language of the mortal realm. But thankfully, because of her, the whole kingdom was saved, hence why she ended up being called the Holy Maiden. With that being said, since Ingrid's parents are now slain by Erold, and her siblings, including her brother, are all missing, she is now technically the only remaining member of the royal family. That is why she can freely choose the man she wants to marry. Although all of this is true, Beowulf still thinks that this is such a hasty decision, considering the two just met earlier today. However, Ingrid immediately defended Makoto, stating that marriage is just about momentum. Since she saw that Makoto shot his love earnestly and made a heartfelt proposal, Ingrid finds it really lovely, as she hasn't really heard such a sincere expression of love before. As a result, Ingrid ended up accepting his proposal. Because of this, Ingrid then went on to ask for Beowulf's blessing for their marriage. Before giving his blessing, Beowulf went on to show off his sacred axe. Seeing this shocked Ingrid, considering this weapon should either have been taken or destroyed when the temple of Kilvez fell into the hands of the enemy. So Ingrid immediately asked Beowulf how he managed to keep it. Beowulf then explains that his younger sister, Milan, was a priestess in the temple of Kilvez. So when Erold's forces approached the temple, Milan sent the holy axe back to their homeland to keep it safe, and when Erold seized control of the temple, the holy axe was replaced with the demonic axe. That is why Beowulf made it his mission now to protect Ingrid and reclaim the Kilvez temple. On top of that, Beowulf also wanted to rescue his sister, Milan, from the hands of the enemies. Now that they have finally heard Beowulf's side of the story, the princess and Makoto are willing to work with him in reaching his goals of defeating Erold. So, in the end, Beowulf also gave his blessings to the two. As Beowulf's weapon starts shining brightly, gathering so much attention from people nearby, Makoto tells them that it's time to run away, as the police might come and arrest them. Now that they have managed to know each other more deeply, Beowulf sees Makoto as a friend and a comrade. But before they leave, the chef of the restaurant approaches them, telling Makoto that Beowulf hasn't finished paying for his meals. After seeing the bill, Makoto starts to regret being friends with such a gluttonous person like Beowulf. As the three finally start traveling to the shrine, as they pass through the beach, Ingrid can't help but get mesmerized by how beautiful the sunset is in this world. Meanwhile, Beowulf at the back is amazed at how fast the car is moving. Although Makoto had always dreamt of going on a trip with a significant other, but with Beowulf joining them, Makoto can't help but worry about the expenses they will be spending throughout their journey, considering he'll be the one who will cover it all. Before going to the shrine, Makoto plans on visiting a campground to buy some meat and vegetables at the supermarket to make some barbecue. He then brought the two to the supermarket and bought all the goods. While they are there, Makoto thinks to himself that his money will be enough to get them through. After all, his father always paid him a fair wage for working at the family business. Now that they have finally gathered all they need. As they got to Kahoku City, Ishikawa Prefecture, Makoto decided to rent out a room in the inn. However, his budget is not enough, which is why they ended up camping outside the RV. Despite that, Makoto finds this experience rather amusing and quite memorable. Ingrid is also thankful for him since this is a situation she couldn't have imagined when they were transported to this world. Thanks to Makoto, Ingrid, and Beowulf were able to have such a warm and peaceful night. At this point, Makoto immediately brushes off his worries regarding the expenses, reminding himself that this is all for Ingrid. But since there are still a lot of things that Ingrid and Beowulf need to learn, Makoto went on to explain various things through the magic window. There, he was able to share images and easily teach the two how to use the toilet. Although they really appreciate Makoto's efforts in explaining everything to them, Beowulf still feels uncomfortable relying on Makoto for everything. That is why, with such respect, Beowulf asks Makoto if there's anything that he could do to help. So, as a suggestion, Beowulf offered to teach Makoto how to use magic. Beowulf wanted to start off by teaching Makoto the basic magic called life magic. He then further explains that with life magic, even waste can be cleansed effortlessly. According to Beowulf, in this world where the laws of physics are different, there is no doubt that Makoto can't use magic. But thanks to his contract with the Holy Sword, Beowulf knows that Makoto should be able to use the window and learn magic. The window is a bridge connecting the spirit world and the physical world. By contracting with a holy sword and using the window, Makoto can draw mana and use magic. Makoto thought of it first, but eventually he decided to accept Beowulf's offer to teach him. So, despite the fact that it's already late at night, the group went on to start their first lesson. Beowulf started off by explaining what life magic is. According to him, life magic is a type of magic that has simplified formulas so that even children can handle it. However, it is indispensable in their daily lives. So, to better explain it to Makoto, Beowulf shows some examples by casting a spell called Incite. Aside from Ignite, there are other life magic spells that Makoto can learn from the window, such as cleansing, whispering, gentle breeze, light, and silencing. Beowulf strongly believes that even humans from this mortal world can learn these spells in a matter of a few months. As Makoto checks them out, he then asks Beowulf if he could give it a try. This shocked both Beowulf and Ingrid, as they never thought that Makoto would make such a bold move this early. As it turns out, Makoto actually can feel the pulsating and flowing power emanating from the window, so as long as he concentrates his consciousness on the window, the information will flow in effortlessly. Eventually, Makoto manages to cast the spell Ignite just like how Beowulf did a while ago. This really surprised Beowulf since he knew that what Makoto did was beyond impossible. Makoto then immediately explains that it is all because of the window. Makoto didn't even stop with the spell Ignite and even went on to try the other life magic spells as well. At this point, Beowulf and Ingrid are amazed by how Makoto manages to master all the spells quickly. Meanwhile, now that he is able to master all the basics, Makoto wonders if he could also learn the magic that Beowulf used the other day to defeat the fish monster. Although it is possible, Beowulf still made it clear with Makoto that if he wanted to learn it, for humans like him to use magic beyond that, surgery is required. Beowulf then showed off his scar and told Makoto that he just needed to make a small hole in his sternum. Through this hole, a drip of the 11 elixir will be dropped. If successful, a magic reactor will be born within the body. Ingrid then went on to state that magic is the power elves only have, who inherently possess magic reactors. That surgery is designed to give individuals other than elves a high level of magical power. However, Ingrid explains to him that it would be better to refrain from doing it now, since 1 out of every 2 people who undergo this surgery would lose their lives because of the procedure. And even if it succeeds, they would be in a temporary state of suspended animation for 1 month. Besides, there is currently no elixir available in this world, and to be able to use higher level magic, a contract with a spirit is required. But those spirits do not exist in this physical world Makoto lives in. However, Beowulf suggested another way, stating that by using life magic, Makoto should be able to make good use of it in battles. Since they still had time till the gates fully opened, Beowulf offered to train Makoto to better his magic skills. Once the gate opens, the local physical laws will eventually collapse, and anomalies overflow, just like what happened to Tokyo. Although Beowulf intended to defeat the Guardian of Cyprus as soon as the gates open, however, now that the enemy is formidable, he also thinks that he needs to prepare for the fight. On top of that, Beowulf also realizes that Makoto hasn't fully mastered the power of the Holy Sword yet. But he fully believes that Makoto can quickly master the use of the Holy Sword, just like how he did it with the life magic. Since the acquisition of the Holy Sword is essential for the battles to come, it is essential for Makoto to learn how to use it, the sooner the better. However, Makoto still keeps on worrying about attracting the attention of the police. But since there is not a single person around, Makoto had no choice but to practice now while there are people around. Since it's already late at night, Beowulf plans on starting the training tomorrow. Ingrid also thinks that despite Makoto's fast learning skills, it's better for him to learn the basics of magic and how to handle the Holy Sword, since this will drastically increase their fighting capabilities. But for now, since they had quite a long day, the group decided to finally head to bed and just take a rest for the night. Makoto plans on sleeping outside together using a sleeping bag. However, Beowulf has other plans. He went on to tease Makoto around, stating that he should stay with Ingrid inside the RV instead. At this point, as Makoto got dragged inside the RV, Beowulf went on to give Ingrid a big thumbs up, rooting for him to do a great job tonight. After preparing for the night, Ingrid then lay beside Makoto. During this moment, the poor man is on the verge of fainting as he can't even breathe normally because of nervousness. As sweat starts dripping down Makoto's forehead, he starts to ask himself just what on earth he should do right now. He then slowly glances at Ingrid, and to his surprise, Ingrid looks as beautiful when sleeping as she is when awake. So as soon as Ingrid faced him, Makoto then went on to move closer, about to finally kiss her plump lips. But before he can even do it, Makoto immediately turns his head away. As he started blushing, he kept telling himself that even if they are engaged, they've just started dating and Ingrid is pretty tired right now. On top of that, Makoto also reminds himself of his training tomorrow, which eventually help him fall asleep easily. Besides, he has undergone this kind of training before with his family. Little did Makoto know, Ingrid was just testing him, and she couldn't help but feel glad that he handled the situation so well. The next day, Makoto then went on to cook his comrades some human breakfast. While he cooks, the two couldn't even take their eyes off, quite mesmerized at how Makoto cooks the food. As soon as they tasted the food, Ingrid and Beowulf immediately got blown away by how delicious it was. After eating breakfast, Ingrid tells the two that while they train, she will stay in the RV as there is something she wants to try. She then asks for Makoto's permission to let her enchant the car with magic. Upon further consideration, she finds this car as an incredible thing as it serves as a home and also a means of transportation, and sometimes even a weapon. Since the RV is made of special metal, Ingrid plans on bestowing her holy magic upon it, which is similar to imbuing a holy sword. Both holy swords and holy axes lose their power and become mere masses of iron as time goes by. That is why it is the role of a saint to bestow sacred power upon those weapons. So, Ingrid is simply saying that she wants to enhance this car with holy magic, like a holy sword. Although Makoto still doesn't fully understand it yet, but since it's for the better, he just went on to allow Ingrid to do it. With that said, while Ingrid prepares for the ritual, Makoto and Beowulf go on to start their special training at the beach. As soon as they got there, Beowulf immediately told Makoto to unleash his holy sword. Makoto then effortlessly went on to activate his weapon into sword mode. Before the training began, Beowulf went on to tell Makoto that both the holy sword and the holy axe are fundamentally just swords and axes during personal combat. Originally, the holy sword's power is unleashed when fighting against creatures born from miasma. But among these creatures, they need to be wary of the ones born from the corpses of living beings, which are creatures called the cannibalistic ghoul. Makoto then wonders what these cannibalistic ghouls are. Beowulf then went on to explain that these ghouls are just like the fish monster they encountered the other day. The miasma turns corpses into cannibalistic ghouls, and these ghouls attack the living just like what happened to the dead fish in the market. Sorcerer Errold controls many of these creatures. Although he is a powerful sorcerer, he was able to take over the country with a small number of them by turning the bodies of the fallen soldiers into cannibalistic ghouls as a military force. However, Beowulf assures Makoto that using the divine power dwelling in the sacred weapon, he can easily purify the miasma and return the cannibalistic ghouls to their original corpses. But before Makoto can be able to do that, he still needs to train to awaken the sacred power of the holy sword. To do that, Beowulf went on to take out a bottle of a concentrated form of miasma. With this, Beowulf will create a practice golem for Makoto to fight with. With just a few drops of it, Beowulf managed to create a golem made of sand. This golem will now operate using miasma, similar to how the cannibalistic ghouls function. But Makoto is quite worried about the golem's abnormally massive size. Beowulf immediately tells him that there are cannibalistic ghouls that are as big as mountains, so this one is the perfect size for training. Meanwhile, at Kanazawa Castle Park in Kanazawa City, the gates are starting to open, and miasma also starts to leak out. Just like Beowulf stated, now the dead are coming back to life, not as humans, but as monsters. Going back to Makoto and Beowulf, Beowulf encourages Makoto to go all in and listen to the voice of the holy sword and let it unleash its divine power. However, Makoto isn't hearing any voice at all, making him wonder if only a master of the sword can hear it. The fact that he hasn't even held a sword like this before makes everything harder for him. Despite that, Makoto went all in and just fought off the monster the best way he could. As he goes on to pierce the golem with his sword, he is shocked when the sword won't come out anymore. Beowulf then shouts at him, telling him that he should purify the miasma with divine power, since if he doesn't do it, he won't be able to defeat the golem at all. However, despite Makoto's efforts, the golem ended up sending him flying into the air to the ocean. As Makoto starts to feel a little stressed out about it, Beowulf goes on to tell him to let go of the fixed notion that the holy sword is merely a weapon. Instead, Beowulf showed him that the holy sword is a tool to purify the darkness of the miasma. Beowulf even added that the holy sword is wielded with the wish to improve people and the world. At this point, Makoto is starting to get Beowulf's point, so rather than seeing the sword as a weapon that is primarily used for murdering, he now sees it as a tool to save the world. Beowulf then further added that the divine power of the holy sword is the power of wishes that the shrine maidens, who serve as the holy women dedicated to the holy sword, have poured into it over a long time. That is why Beowulf already anticipated that the current wielder of the holy sword, Ingrid, has also infused her own divine power into the holy sword Makoto has now. So, in other words, Beowulf wants Makoto to realize that he is literally picking up the wishes of his beloved fiancée. After learning about that, Makoto is now more motivated and eager to give it his all and listen to Ingrid's wishes. With much love and concentration combined, Makoto managed to hear Ingrid's wishes from deep inside, helping him defeat the golem with one hit. After that quite tiring training, the two decided to head back to the camp. As they got there, they were surprised to see Ingrid talking to a random man. Makoto immediately rushes to talk to the man and asks him if there is something wrong. The man can't understand Ingrid, so he was also glad that Makoto, who speaks Japanese, finally arrived. According to the man, there have been frequent occurrences of supernatural phenomena in the city. Because of that, there's been an emergency evacuation order has been issued for this area, and the campground is also going to be closed. When Ingrid and Beowulf finally understand what the man is trying to say, they are immediately worried since this only means the opening of the gate is faster than they anticipated. Since they don't have any choice, Beowulf suggested that they should head to the Kilvez Temple now. Since Kilvez Temple is located around Kanazawa as well, Makoto estimated that they'll get there in about 30 minutes or so. But before they can even leave, a cannibalistic ghoul suddenly appears out of nowhere. Surprisingly, this ghoul knows Ingrid's name and keeps calling her. Ingrid then immediately asks the monster who he is and how he managed to sniff this place out. With such an eerie voice, the ghoul stated that the gate had now begun to open. As this turns out, a high priest named Dam Ray is the one behind all of this. Using the overflowing miasma from the gate, he created a cannibalistic ghoul puppet to find Ingrid. Dam Ray is the sorcerer from the Erold cult that took control of the Temple of Cyprus, and it's most likely that Erold has sent him to capture Ingrid. The ghoul then went on to tell Ingrid that she should just surrender now, as Lord Erold might grant her forgiveness. However, Makoto wouldn't allow such a thing to happen at all. In fact, he immediately went on to attack this creature and cut off its legs using the holy sword. At this point, Makoto finally realizes that Ingrid's enemies are no easy opponents. This one in particular looks different from both the pig monster and that fish. So to ensure that he wins this fight, Makoto concentrates on listening to the voice of the holy power within his sword. But just as he expected, this ghoul is not easy to defeat. So, using the magic spells he learned from Beowulf last night, Makoto used them all in practice. Knowing that this is still not enough, Makoto went on to ask Beowulf for some help. With their amazing teamwork, the ghoul was defeated in no time. But because of how focused they are on the fight, neither of the boys didn't notice that a crow-like creature had already got Makoto in its hand. Before the ghoul even dies, he orders the crow to take Ingrid to the temple and offer her as a sacrifice to the demonic axe. And if that happens, the gate will eventually open, and this place will fall into Erold's hands once and for all. At this point, Makoto doesn't even know how to react anymore. As he starts to panic, Beowulf tells him to calm down for a bit. After all, Ingrid is a princess, so he is certain that she would not get murdered so rudely. Aside from that, since the Dam Ray did mention that Ingrid will be sacrificed to the demonic axe, this only means that they are also heading towards the Kilvez Temple, the same temple that Makoto and the two were planning to go to. Since the gate hasn't fully opened yet, Beowulf is certain that they will be able to rescue Ingrid before she's taken to the other world. So without wasting any minute, the two immediately drove as fast as they could to reach the Kilvez Temple on time. As they head their way to He Temple, the other side of the road is jam-packed with cars that are now heading out of the city because of the evacuation. Meanwhile, Makoto started to feel a warm aura as he drove the car. Then he suddenly remembers that Ingrid had mentioned casting some magic on his RV earlier this morning. Before he could even ask Beowulf about it, they came across a checkpoint. Makoto immediately begged the officers to let him through, stating that his fiancée had been kidnapped by monsters. Although the soldiers didn't want to let them pass, a number of monsters suddenly arrived, murdering every soldier in sight. As the chaos started to unfold, with soldiers dying one after another, Beowulf tells Makoto that he'll go outside to fight and defeat the cannibalistic ghoul with the holy sword. But before he can even step out, Makoto immediately drives the car directly into the barricade. Confused about what Makoto is planning to do, Beowulf then asks him about it. Makoto then tells him that he has been feeling a strange power from this car since earlier, which is making him wonder if this could be the doing of Ingrid's magic. After all, Ingrid did tell them that she wanted to strengthen this care like a holy sword. But despite that, they still don't know the activation condition. Beowulf then explains to Makoto that magic requires activation conditions, but they haven't heard about them yet. Right now, the only one who knows them is Ingrid. Now that Beowulf has mentioned it, Makoto tries his best to really think of any phrase that will activate this car's magic. While Beowulf is starting to panic as the monsters approach them in great numbers, Makoto tries to shout some phrase like "wedding ceremony" in hopes that it will work. Although at first Makoto failed, but after much thinking, Makoto finally managed to activate the car as he states the words "I love Ingrid" loudly. As soon as the magic of the RV got activated, the whole vehicle suddenly shone bright. just like what happened to the Holy Sword when Makoto made a contract with it. Without even doing anything, the ghoul that was clinging to the top of the RV turned into bones. Because of what Makoto did, the augmented magic has been activated. According to Beowulf, this is a powerful magic that even an ordinary cannibalistic ghoul will be purified just by approaching the car. With this, it would definitely be easy for the two to reach the temple without worrying about fighting any ghouls. However, a bigger ghoul, the size of a small aircraft, starts to approach them. With its size, Beowulf worries that if it collides with the car, they won't be able to purify it completely, and they'll eventually be done for. But suddenly, a window appeared in front of Makoto. There, he saw some information about the car. With this, Makoto was immediately able to formulate a plan and open up the headlights while keeping the car looking straight at the ghoul. As it turns out, since the car is now flowing with magic, the light emitted immediately turns the monster into bones. While Makoto is celebrating the fact that they made it out alive, Beowulf is rather shocked by just what he witnessed. For him, what Ingrid did to the car is already considered a high-level holy magic. To activate it, not only Ingrid's power of bestowing magic, but also Makoto's own abilities should play a significant role. As he went silent for a bit, Makoto started to get worried and confused at the same time. But eventually, Beowulf went back to his energetic self as they would finally head to the Kilvez Temple. Meanwhile, at Ishikawa Prefecture, Kanazawa Castle Park, Ingrid is seen lying on the temple's entrance. A gate that looks like a black hole suddenly appeared. Someone then steps out of this said gate, and when Ingrid opens her eyes to see who it is, she is immediately dragged into the gate while being restrained using a chain. Going back to Makoto and Beowulf, Makoto is now trying his best to drive faster. But suddenly, lightning strikes out of nowhere, and ghouls suddenly appear in numbers. This is a sign that the gates are now about to open. The number of cannibalistic ghouls has now increased, and it's all because of the amount of miasma leaking out as the gates start to open. With this number, Makoto needs to think faster to ensure that they take care of these monsters in one go. However, the car's power starts to weaken already. But since they have come this far, Makoto doesn't want to give up just yet. Since they didn't have any choice, the two ended up continuing the battle on foot. While Beowulf is fighting the monsters using his axe, Makoto goes on to take something from the car's engine. They then went on to start moving on foot, fighting as many monsters as they could. In the midst of all of these, Makoto went on to show off his skills as a new wielder. On top of that, Beowulf also goes on to go all in with his axe, and pours out the sacred power residing in his sister, Milim, within her axe. With this, Beowulf managed to create a fire wheel that wiped out every monster on sight. As they make their way to the temple, Beowulf then goes on to tell Makoto that with mastery of the Holy Sword, the ghouls are nothing to fear. Eventually, they finally made it to the temple. But to their surprise, a gate of the dead appeared at the temple's entrance. Looking at it made Beowulf realize that if this gate opens fully, not only this city but the entire region will be engulfed by the anomalies. At this moment, Makoto finally realized that the enemies most likely took Ingrid inside. Without hesitation, Makoto plans on diving in at once. However, Beowulf immediately stops him, telling him that charging in blindly won't lead them to victory at all. Besides that, there are powerful soldiers from the Herald cult, not just sorcerers and cannibalistic ghouls. That is why Beowulf personally thinks that they should at least strategize before they dive into a deadly fight. But before they could do so, a screen suddenly appeared in front of Makoto, showing Ingrid being captured by the enemies. Because of this, Makoto didn't even hesitate and immediately went on to jump through the gate into the other world. So, without any choice, Beowulf joined him as well. As Makoto got inside, he was shocked to find himself falling from the sky. It turns out that to prevent the enemy from realizing their intrusion, Beowulf moves to coordinate with the sky. Infiltrating from such a height is definitely nerve-wracking. But because of Beowulf's wind cape, the two were able to land safely. Now that they have managed to infiltrate safely, Makoto is quite mesmerized that he actually managed to finally make it to the other world that Beowulf and Ingrid are always talking about. According to Beowulf, the cursed artifact in the shrine in the temple is emitting miasma. Ever since being dominated by Herald, this country has become like this everywhere. Now that Beowulf has mentioned it, Makoto eventually saw that this place has a similar structure to Kanazawa Castle Park. With that being said, Makoto went on to take out his smartphone and display the map of the park on the window. Since they landed around the area of 2 warehouses according to the map, it is most likely that Ingrid is being held captive in the main hall with the cursed artifacts. Knowing that the square is filled with soldiers, the two need to figure out how to break through it. Since Makoto doesn't know much about the enemies in this world, he asked Beowulf to be the one to decide the basic strategy of their fight. At first, Beowulf wasn't sure if he would agree with Makoto's plan. But in the end, with Makoto's persuasion, Beowulf ended up agreeing. But before they started fighting the enemies, Makoto went on to try something using his gun, and just like he expected, he won't need any silencer if he uses life magic. As the two start moving, Beowulf is quite intrigued after learning about what a gun is. Since using it, Makoto has managed to take out as many monsters without engaging in close combat. But their problem now is how to break through the square. Beowulf then tells Makoto that he plans to infiltrate the square alone and draw the enemy's attention towards him while Makoto makes his way to the main hall. But Makoto is certain that no matter how strong Beowulf is, unlike the ghouls, these orcs can't be defeated with just a holy sword. Despite knowing that, Beowulf is willing to go all in, as he is the only one who can fight against a large horde. Since he is a warrior who has survived on the battlefield for a long time, he is certain that he'll get through it eventually. Unlike Makoto, whom he has been observing since earlier, Beowulf has realized that this man is clearly not a warrior on the battlefield. Based on his moves, it is most likely that Makoto silently infiltrates his target unnoticed to eliminate them, an assassin to be exact, which is something that Makoto didn't even deny. Now, with a plan in mind, Makoto then asked Beowulf to make sure not to die, making Beowulf laugh. But since this is the first time Makoto has called someone a friend, he is just hoping this is not the last time they'll see each other. They then part ways, now ready to do their own assigned tasks. Beowulf then started attracting the enemy's attention towards him. Even the enemies were surprised that a hero like Beowulf actually came here. Finding out that even the enemies knew about Beowulf amazes Makoto. As Beowulf starts off the fight using his axe, Makoto slowly makes his way to the entrance of the main hall. Using his gun, he managed to take down the enemies even from a distance. Knowing that Beowulf is fighting for his life on the line, Makoto is also willing to risk his life to rescue Ingrid no matter what. After entering the gate, since there are no more guards in sight, Makoto initially planned on going in through the front. But eventually, he realized that it would really be a bad idea. Meanwhile, inside the main hall, Ingrid is shocked when she sees that a number of girls are hanged naked, all looking like animals being displayed in the market. Makoto then immediately shouts at Dame Ray, asking him what he is doing to the temple maidens. Dame Ray immediately answers that they are merely offering them as a sacrifice to their god, Ashwin. Dame Ray aims for their humiliation, disgrace, defilement, and above all, pleasure. Seeing how unlikely of a priest Dame Ray is acting, Ingrid couldn't even stop being angry at him. But even if she wanted to fight, because of the seal of demon confinement, none of her magic works. Moments later, Ingrid is now hanged by Dame Ray, who is confident that his power will rise to unprecedented heights. As soon as the ritual started, even Ingrid started to feel scared when the power of the demonic axe started increasing. Slowly, Dame Ray then tries to undress Ingrid, stating that he will now offer her pleasure. As Dame Ray is about to dive into the depths of Ingrid's being, Makoto steps in, sneakily stabbing him right from above the ceiling. This immediately caused Dame Ray to fall, but Makoto didn't stop there yet. He even went all in with Dame Ray's personal knight. On the other hand, Ingrid is quite shocked seeing Makoto in this place. Makoto then tells her that he and Beowulf came through the gate and even apologized to her for being late. Using his holy sword, Makoto breaks off the chain that kept Ingrid hanging. As he finally freed her, he then focused on the enemy he had up front. So pumped up to defeat this man and take Ingrid out back to safety, Makoto charges in before Ingrid can even warn him who he is actually fighting. Using his holy sword, Makoto tried his best to land a hit on this man, but despite his best efforts, he ended up not being able to succeed. So, without any choice, he grabs his gun and starts shooting like crazy. But none of his bullets penetrate the enemy because of its heavy armor. So Makoto had no choice but to try stabbing it right in the eyes, a part of the armor that is not covered. However, the warrior already saw it coming, so he managed to block Makoto's attack. At this point, even Makoto's surprise attacks are no good. Still not giving up, Makoto tries to think of a way to defeat this man once and for all. While Makoto is thinking, Ingrid eventually realizes something important. As Makoto is about to take down the warrior using the technique his father taught them back then, called the Okami style, cutting blade restraint, Ingrid stops him from going all in and informs him that the person behind that armor is actually a shrine maiden. The cursed armor he is wearing is controlled by Dam Ray, which is why she ended up hurting them. But as soon as Ingrid removes her collar, they should be able to restore the maiden's sanity with a purification spell. But before Ingrid can even do that, Dam Ray suddenly comes back to life. Using his lightning strike spell, he knocks Ingrid over. Pissed off at what Dam Ray just did, Makoto ended up going all in and went on to slice Dam Ray up to pieces, hoping that this will finally end him. Meanwhile, Beowulf looks like he is also eager to defeat these monsters to end this chaos once and for all. Indeed, his magic power and physical strength have decreased because his holy axe doesn't really work well against demi-humans like this one. Since the magical energy from the temple seems to enhance these monsters' regenerative abilities, Beowulf went ahead and destroyed these monsters' vital points, or they would eventually regenerate. But suddenly, a dragon-looking demi-human enters the scene and starts fighting with Beowulf. Since dragonkin are not affected by human magic, Beowulf is having a hard time fighting this creature. So Beowulf had no choice but to use his trump card now. Meanwhile, going back to Ingrid and Makoto, Makoto immediately checks if Ingrid is still alive. Fortunately, she is, but Dam Ray is so persistent that even without a head, he is still moving. At this point, Makoto went all in and stabbed him straight in the chest, and to his surprise, Dam Ray suddenly disappeared. As Makoto goes on to check on the warrior and realizes that it is not moving anymore, Makoto immediately gets the key and removes Ingrid's collar, which eventually causes her to regain her consciousness and energy. Feeling quite awkward seeing Ingrid's naked body, Makoto went ahead and gave her his jacket. When Ingrid finally puts on some clothes, Makoto informs her that Dam Ray disappeared when he pierced his heart, while Dam Ray's warriors haven't moved since then as well. With that, Ingrid immediately dispels the curse on the armor of the warrior with holy magic and eventually rescue the other maidens as well. After dispelling the armor using her holy magic, Makoto went on to help Ingrid in removing the armor, but they were surprised to see who was inside. To their surprise, this girl looks exactly like Beowulf. At this point, Ingrid suggested that this might be Milan, the sister that Beowulf is talking about. Now that Ingrid has mentioned it, this girl also had an unbelievable amount of strength, and his physique is about the same as Beowulf's. On top of that, Ingrid has also heard before that Beowulf's clan all possess robust bodies infused with the blood of war gods, so it is most likely that this is Milan. As Ingrid went on to check on her, she found no life-threatening injuries at all. Now that's already assured, the two went on to save the other maidens as well. Using her holy power, Ingrid went on to return the monsters trapped in miasma to the heavens using her purification magic. After doing so, the two immediately gave them some cover-up and let them rest on the side for a while. Now, the two plan to finally destroy the demonic axe. But before they could even do so, Beowulf enters the room, happy that Makoto and Ingrid managed to defeat Dam Ray. Makoto then went on to tell him that Milan is also safe, which shocked Beowulf so much. He immediately rushes towards his sibling and tries to comfort her. Now that Beowulf is already here, the two leave the rest to him while they take care of destroying the demonic axe. However, the two have another problem. Although they have a holy sword with them, it cannot technically destroy the demonic axe directly. So Ingrid plans on bestowing her greatest holy magic upon the holy sword. And with that power, Makoto will destroy the gemstone on the handle of the demonic axe. Although a little confused about how exactly this plan worked, Makoto went on to follow Ingrid's plan. Ingrid then calls for all the goddesses from the goddess of order, Mano, the goddess of justice, Keti, and lastly the goddess of peace, Lenia, in order to shatter the great calamity. Ingrid asks them for their divine powers to give them to the hero of the holy sword, Makoto. Using a spell called Devastation Magic, Makoto was able to gather as much power as he needed to destroy the axe, and when he was finally able to slice it off, the sword suddenly disappeared like what happened to Dam Ray. But to make the situation worse, Milan snatches the demonic axe, shocking both Ingrid and Makoto. As it turned out, Milan looks like she is still being controlled by the armor. But Ingrid thinks otherwise. If that's the case, the curse should have been successfully lifted. So if it is, then the two speculated that maybe the demon axe is actually the one who is controlling her. With just one sweep of the axe, almost the whole temple is about to fall. Seeing how his sister is literally destroying the shrine she has sworn to protect made Beowulf shout at his sister, trying to help her snap out of Dam Ray's curse. However, Milan then revealed that she is not being controlled at all. As it turns out that everything that she is doing right now is based on her own will and beliefs. She then went on to reveal that she has always envied him for being able to confidently say things like being the pride of the family. In their country, twins are seen as an omen of misfortune, especially twins of different genders. So unlike Beowulf, who was loved and raised as the eldest son of a heroic lineage, Milim was cast out from the family and told to become a foreign priestess. On the cold stone pavement of the Temple of Kilvez, Milim has cried, having thought of her parents. But she has no place in her homeland. That is why she has now decided to join Erold and build a new world through darkness. Although Beowulf just wanted to help her, with Beowulf's state right now from all the fighting earlier, Milim is excited to finally end her brother's life once and for all. But before they can even start fighting, Makoto steps in and tells both of them that families shouldn't hurt each other, no matter who they are. So, instead of letting Beowulf fight his own sister, Makoto offered to fight her instead. Although there is no doubt that Makoto is quite skilled, but now that she has obtained the power of the demonic axe, Milim doesn't even see Makoto as her enemy. As Milim went on to initiate the first attack, Makoto started his growth and immediately sliced off Milim's hand. As he is about to stab the axe to death, Milim appears behind him, punching him hard that causes his internal organs to rupture. If it weren't for Ingrid's healing magic, Makoto might be dead by now. With Ingrid's support, Makoto is not afraid to go all in now since he knows that as long as the attack does not cause him instant death, Ingrid will be able to heal his injuries. Since then, his attacks are now fiercer, stronger, and bolder. Even Milim was amazed at how fast Makoto changed his moves, with Makoto revealing to her that he has now removed the limiter, so even if it breaks fatally, he knows that Ingrid is there to fix it for him. Seeing how Makoto really believes in her, Ingrid couldn't help but blush. Beowulf then also steps in, telling his sister that there is no way she would be able to win against Makoto. Now that the three are working together to defeat her, Milim decides to retreat for now. With Gam Ray already dead, it is now impossible to open the gate to this realm anymore. But before leaving, she tells her brother that she will definitely end him soon. Now that she is gone and has escaped to the human world with the power of the demon axe, Beowulf plans on pursuing her. However, Ingrid finds that impossible since they have to protect the other maiden first, considering Erold's army will arrive soon. So Beowulf immediately suggested that he could take these girls to Yggerland, as he also had to report about Milim to their king. But for now, he wants the two to go to the human world first. But before they leave, Beowulf firmly believes that everything his sister said wasn't true at all, to which Makoto and Ingrid understand. Now that they already have a plan, Makoto and Ingrid finally went to the demon world again, using their teleportation magic. Now that's all for today's video. Comment X if you want to see the next part of this series. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As always, thanks for watching.